Hi guys, before I start my video, which is are we gonna end up together, I wanted to just introduce a deck that I got very recently. This is by a fellow YouTube reader, and her name is Mystic Moon. She does a lot of twin flame work, okay? And you might notice that I don't talk about twin flames very much on my channel. Right now is not the time to really talk about that. But I did want to say that for this reading, one of the decks that I'm going to be using is the deck that she created. And it's called the Twin Flame Oracle by Mystic Moon. You can find it on Etsy, and you can also see videos of her using this deck on her channel. So if you want to check her out, go ahead. All right, let's get started. Hi guys, are we gonna end up together? And that's the topic for this pick a card reading today. And I think this is a really important question. And it's really important to get the details right on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the Tarot of Pagan Cats to act as a clarifier if we need clarifying cards. Just wanted to let you guys know that that was close at hand. So pile number 1 is the red Jasper, pile number 2 is the yellow Citrine, and pile number 3 is the pink rose quartz. Okay, so while you guys are thinking about that, I wanted to go ahead and say anything you need to know about me is in the description. That includes information about private readings, my contact information, and the timestamps for these videos. Now when I can get to it, I will take the timestamps and I'll put them as a comment as well, as a pinned comment. But for those of you who are watching and the timestamps aren't up yet, it will be in the video, okay? I mean in the video description. All right. All right, and also since this is the very first time that I'm featuring that deck, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to that in the description as well. But from now on, when I feature that deck, I'm not going to do that. I just think it's really important to show support for those of us who have a product like that and it's independently created, you know, because it's a really beautiful deck, and I would recommend it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to the question at hand, because this is an interesting question. Are we going to end up together, okay? For those of you who haven't picked yet, go ahead and pause the video and think just some more about which one you're going to pick. But for those of you who are ready to start, we're going to go ahead and start with pile number 1, which is the red Jasper. We're going to put the pile number 2 and pile number 3 to the side, and we're going to find out. Are you guys going to be together, okay? I have got to apologize. I am going to be taking frequent sips from my coffee. I'm getting over a cold. It doesn't affect my ability to read. It does affect my voice though. All right, guys, let's look. Okay, we've got the Emperor, we've got the Nine of Swords, and then we've got the Five of Wands. So what this tells me is that in between these two forces, which are kind of chaotic, there is a need for discipline. There's a need to bring this up a little bit. There's a need. The Emperor represents kind of like a father figure, okay? And so he's the disciplinary, the person who you know, brings like he brings all the resources. He is kind of the ruler of the head. You know, he brings the sciences, the, you know, what you can sense and all of that. Whereas the mother figure, the Empress, is, you know, more about the intuitive, the nurturing side of things. Okay, so let me tell you about the Nine of Swords, because I think it's important to know, you know, the story behind the Nine of Swords. In traditional tarot decks, you'll see the Nine of Swords as a person who's in bed and they've just woken up from a horrible nightmare, okay? And you've got the swords in the background, okay? And they're crying. It's like a grief card, okay? And it's kind of scary to get it in a reading, okay? But here's the deal, it's not really that bad because the person is not reacting to reality. They're reacting to what they've imagined. They're reacting to the worst case scenario. They're reacting to their nightmare, okay? So let's keep that in mind while once we look at these cards too, because we need to figure out is this negative idea about where the relationship might be or could be, is that reality or is it just a nightmare? Let's go ahead and put the Emperor aside too. We've got to see this in context of the other cards, and then the five of rods. You know, that can be so many different things. Yes, the fives tend to show things that are more negative than positive, but this can be conflict. This can also be competition, and competition can be both healthy and negative, right? And this can also just be play, okay? So there's different ways of interpreting this. The way that I'm interpreting right now is that this is more like the two of you have some opposing views and ideas about the way the relationship should work. However, the fact that the two of you have these different ideas is actually good for the two of you, because when you have a couple come together and they have more things in common than they don't have in common, then you get a couple that's got a really strong friendship but might not have as much of that passion, okay? And then when you've got a couple come together and they're very different, okay, you know, then you've got maybe less of that friendship, but you've got that really strong passion in between the two of you. So this could be something like that. Let's go ahead and read this in context with these cards. Okay, wow. So we've got the Soulmate card, we've got Dark Night of the Soul, and Fifth Dimension. So this is actually very, very interesting when you take this and you put it next to this. So the Nine of Swords here and the Dark Night of the Soul, I feel like these two go together. You might be in a situation either now or recently where you have hit complete rock bottom with this relationship. And I'm not even kidding. This relationship has pulled you through so much crap. Just so much heartache and so much confusion, and it's brought up all of this, you know, kind of nasty stuff from inside of yourself, all of this shadow stuff from inside of yourself that might not be so easy to confront and might not be so easy to work through. However, that's something that we've got to do. We have to work with our shadow self, the part that we don't really want to look at. We have to work with it. At least I think we should, in order to be balanced in the light, okay? So the Dark Night of the Soul and this, what I call the Nightmare card, okay? These are related. One thing that needs to be said about the Dark Night of Soul and this Nightmare card is that they're both talking to something that isn't a complete picture, okay? The Dark Night of the Soul is talking about rock bottom. They're talking about, you know, it could be talking about shadow work too. It could be talking about a nightmare. It could be talking about staying up all night and not being able to sleep. But ultimately, not everything is all bad, right? The only reason why we have a shadow self is because we also have the self that works in the light, okay? So really keep in mind that both of these talk about somebody who's over-identified with that negativity, okay? Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place to work with negativity. There definitely is. But the Dark Night of the Soul is more of this kind of desperate weight that comes from becoming overwhelmed by one circumstance. Whereas shadow work, while it's not pretty and it's not fun for most people who do it, there's at least an end in sight, okay? So keep in mind that this is just when things get the very worst in your mind, when you get to that point in your mind where you're all tangled up and you're not trusting in the feelings and the universe to take care of you and that kind of thing. this kind of energy can happen. You can start having nightmares. You can reach rock bottom, okay? But what's great about this is that this card, I can already say, yes, you guys are going to end up together. Yeah. Because here you've got somebody making somebody an offer. This could be a marriage proposal. This could be somebody professing their love to someone, okay? This is, obviously the soulmate card implies that there's a soul connection between the two of you, which is beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And the soulmate card doesn't mean that you're not twin flames. It doesn't mean that you're in a karmic relationship. A soulmate just mentions that there is a soul connection. This isn't just on the heart level and the head level and the physical level. There is something more. There's something more about the two of you. There's something that clicks that you just can't describe. It exists on a different dimension than the head and the heart and the physical, okay? It exists on the fifth dimension, okay? So you guys we're talking about a really, really special, important relationship, okay? So if you guys are going through, okay, if you are in a situation with your person, with the person that you have on your heart, and there is any kind of physical, emotional, or verbal abuse, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, get out of that situation, okay? You need to take care of yourself, okay? This isn't about, are you going to end up with the person who's abusive with you? This is, are you going to end up with a person who's relatively healthy for you? As long as your person isn't abusive, okay? Yes, you will end up together. Let's go ahead and see how we can make that happen quicker, okay? So we've got body care. So what this tells me, it doesn't mean that you smell bad or anything like that. What this tells me is that, you've got to focus on yourself too, okay? And you've got to focus on yourself, to the point where it's like, even like remembering to eat, can be sometimes a challenge for you because you're in your head so much, and I identify with that, okay? Because I spend a whole lot of time in my head. I am I am such an introvert. It's just ridiculous that I even have a channel, okay? If my dad were alive, he would just be blown away from the fact that his daughter actually started her own channel, given that he thinks that I'm the most introverted person in the world. No, that's not true. But I am introverted and I know what it feels like to just forget about the physical world, okay? Body care is not just about taking care of your body. It's also taking care of your physiological needs. That can be your psychological needs as well. Your mental, the alchemy of the mind, right? And the alchemy of your emotions too. So this is taking care of yourself and making sure that you're nice and balanced, making sure that you're fresh, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's really hard to take that focus away from the other and put it on ourselves. But if the other isn't giving us that focus ourselves, what else can we do? We have to do that, okay, in order to be okay. So I'm not saying that they're not going to be that person that can take care of you, or even that they're not doing that in the now. I'm just saying that you've got to still know how to do that. Even if you're in a relationship where you can depend on that person to help you a whole lot with that kind of stuff, you still have to take care of yourself. And just in the same way that you'd want them to be able to take care of themselves too. And trust. Okay. You have a strong connection to your soul's loving voice and have faith in your intuition. Well, that's a lot easier said than done, isn't it? It's really hard. Especially when you're struggling and you don't know if it's right or wrong and you're kind of going back and forth and you're asking yourself things like, am I crazy? I don't know. Is this really a good situation? Trust issues, it's not just about trusting the situation, trusting the universe, trusting your other person. It starts with trusting yourself, okay? Why would you fall so much in love with someone who you're not supposed to be with, okay? Answer that question. Come up with 5 really good reasons why you would. And then go through every single one of those answers and ask yourself, is this what's going on? You know, maybe one or two of them might be things that might be going on, but then list 5 really good reasons why you would fall into love with somebody who is the one. And ask yourself, is that what's going on? You've got to learn to trust yourself, okay? If you don't already. And I believe that a lot of my viewers do trust themselves, and are having more trouble trusting in the process or trusting in the person. But I do feel that most of you guys, the trust is more about trusting yourself than trusting the forces from outside of yourself. Because when you have a person that can trust in themselves, they view the world as more trustworthy. Now that can be good or bad depending on the situation. I don't like using labels like that, but you know, you can get to the point where you trust so much that you're naive, and then you can get to the point where you trust so little that you're a cynic, right? And while there's charm to both of those, right? I've got to admit that. This is what's going to get the two of you coming together quicker, is not only trusting yourself, but also trusting the situation, trusting that your person's got it too. Your person recognizes that there's something between the two of you. Even if they're not recognizing it on the same level that you are, just trust that they do recognize that, okay? So I really feel like this is a positive thing, but it's just, I mean, like just about any good story, you've just got to go through some crap until you get to the end where it's turns out to be a happy ending. Every couple goes through this 5 of Wands energy, okay? I mean, if they don't, either they've only been together a very, very short time or they're lying, okay? We all have conflicts that we have to resolve with people. And most of us has probably had a nightmare before. That's just, when you wake up, it's just really silly, okay? So understand that this is just normal things that happen during our lives, okay? But when we're not getting that validation from the other person, it can make that stuff a lot heavier and a lot more amplified in our minds, okay? So, for those of you who picked 1, the Jasper stone, the answer is yes, you're going to end up together. However, you know, I recognize that you're going to have to go through some stuff before you get there, okay? What you can do is trust and learn how to take care of yourself in this. Just learn to be as independent as possible from this other person, so that when this person is ready to make this gesture and to recognize your soul connection, that you will be able to say yes and know that you can take care of yourself either with or without that person. All right? So that's what's going on for you guys, group 1. All right, those of you who picked the yellow citrine, group number 2, here is your reading. Okay, so let's first look at, okay, you guys, I don't even know why you're asking this. Okay, you've got the 10 of Pentacles. Okay, I mean, this is a family. You know, you've got some kids. You've got a family. You've got all the stuff that you need and more. This is abundance, a lot of abundance in your life. It looks like you guys are going to end up together. I mean, I can just say that right off the bat, but let's go ahead and see what else is going on here, okay? We also have temperance, okay? That's about being willing to let go of things that we want in order so we can bring in even better things into our lives. So those of you who might be feeling a little clingy, this is a card that kind of reminds you that you still have to kind of go with the flow. You've got to be open to the idea that maybe you can let some things go. And it's not so much surrendering it like giving it up. It's more like surrendering, like letting go and letting the universe take care of it for you. And then you've got the Knight of Wands. In this deck, I think this is a really beautiful depiction of it, because you've got like all these things are lined up. And this last one, you know, obviously it goes right there. We know that. You've got this cat, and it's got this little hurt, right? The Knight of Wands tells us that, okay, yeah, you've been working really hard, and you've gotten hurt, you know, in this situation, but you're still gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. This cat's not about to die. This cat's just hurt, and the cat's still getting things all lined up. And ultimately, you've got this Ten of Pentacles, which is a beautiful card to get when you're asking about a relationship, because this family has everything together. So really keep that in mind, okay? Let's look at these. We've got cycles, refocus, and self-worth. Okay, these are really important. These are good. I think it's kind of interesting because a lot of this has to do with some of the themes that came about in the last reading. Now it's a different message, but it still has some of the same themes. Let me talk about refocus first, okay? Refocus is whatever area that you're honing in on in this relationship, whether it's a specific area or just a relationship in general. Try to purposefully spend some time every day focusing on something else. So let's say that you're really focusing on what this person has said to you and you're trying to figure out, well, what does that mean? Or why did they say that? Or why did they say it that way? Instead of that, focus on, what were some times where this person made me laugh? Or what were some times when this person wasn't talking to me? Refocus on something else so that when you come back to that question of like, okay, but this one thing, this person said something to me and I don't understand it. Then you'll be able to have like kind of a new perspective. It's kind of like that thing that happens when you're playing a jigsaw puzzle and you've just hit a moment where you cannot find any piece that fits. So you get up and you go do something. Maybe you get a drink or something. And you come back and then you suddenly find like 5 pieces that fit all in a row, right? It's kind of like that. It's a way to take your energy and apply it in a way that's more efficient, even if it doesn't feel like it's more efficient at the time. It feels like, well, I just need to look at this for just a little bit longer and then I'll get it. It's like, no, walk away from it for a bit and then come back. This can also speak to refocusing on yourself, okay? Making sure that your needs are being met as well. We've got cycles, okay? Every single relationship goes through different cycles, You'll notice in any marriage and any relationship that's been around for a long enough time, there's sometimes where they're together, like they're more together, they're more loving and demonstrative of their feelings, and then there's times where they're kind of off doing their own things. That's natural, just like the moon cycles and other cycles that we see on the Earth, like the cycles of the season. At least some people see the seasons. Some people live in areas where they don't see so much of a clear defined season. There are cycles all around us, okay? And a relationship is a cycle as well, okay? One thing that you can do with the cycles, especially when I'm thinking about this and the Nine of Wands, is any time that this relationship has hurt you, examine whether or not that is something that mimics a situation from your past, whether it's another relationship that you've been in, or if it's a situation you've been in as a child, maybe with friends or family members, or with a teacher or something like that. I've noticed, and I think that a lot of psychologists have noticed this too, and that here's my psychology degree speaking, okay, that we tend to repeat things that have either traumatized us or left a really big impression on us because we want to make it better. Maybe in our past we were in a situation that was really upsetting for us, and so we recreate that situation to try to get a better result, right? Those kinds of cycles, it's important to recognize when they're happening, because then you can kind of out-psych yourself. You can figure out what's going on. Self-worth. Remember, you are so valuable in this situation. Don't ever feel like you're not important. Because as important it is as a relationship is, you are an important person. Just think about it. I mean, you're the only person that can do what you do, okay? You were made to do exactly what you can do, and you're the only person that can do it. You're the only person that can be yourself. Nobody can be you better than you. So I mean, it's so beautiful. Every single individual is beautiful. It's like you guys are all works of art. And that's just priceless. You guys have so much worth and so much to give to the world. Don't let the relationship distract from that. Realize that you've got some kind of mission here, you know? And maybe you don't want to look at it that way. Maybe you want to just look at it as like, you know, yeah, you've got some work you want to do, or you've got a goal that you want to accomplish, or whatever. Just know you can work on that and you can accomplish that whether or not this relationship works or not. But again, from the very get-go, this relationship's going to work, okay? That's what it's saying. I do think that one thing that could get into the way of this relationship working is if you were to say no to it. Because that certainly could happen. But as far as everything else, it's like the universe is pulling the two of you together, okay? This is the way it's supposed to be between you and your person, okay? So let's look at some things you can do to help bring this about, maybe faster, or some things that you can do to kind of like make this more positive for yourself, okay? And so you've got blessings. Like, just know that you are so blessed with this situation. So few people really get a chance to truly love. I mean, it's kind of sad when you start thinking about it too hard. But it's so true. So many people don't even know what love is. They don't even know what it means to fall in love. And it's so powerful when it happens. And it's so life-changing. And it's such a brilliant thing that can happen, that just know that you're so blessed that you even have this situation going on in your life, and know that you'll continue to be blessed, okay? And then patience. You're able to let the universal energy of transformation move according to its own loving rhythm. Yeah, I was thinking something like this might come about, you know, because like, you know, why else know immediately, yes, it's going to work out. It's like, yes, but all of this stuff first, you know, that's kind of the way it came out to me. Patience. Yeah, it's going to take some patience for you guys. I don't feel like this is going to happen immediately, but it will happen, and the journey will be worth it. It's just about whether or not you want to stick with it. You know, I really think that you are actually the wild card in this, not your person. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, this actually looks very positive for you. And I'm happy for you guys that you have this opportunity, because it certainly is special. Okay? All right, group 3. Those of you who picked the pink rose quartz, let's go ahead and look at what came up for you guys. Okay, so you have the 7 of Swords, you've got the 4 of Cups, and then you've got the Devil. Interesting. Okay, in this deck, you know what, before I do this, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. I apologize. As you guys probably know, I'm still getting over this cold. It does not affect my reading. It just affects my voice. Okay, so yeah, the 7 of Swords and the 4 of Cups are both cards in this particular deck that kind of remind me of being a little bit lazy, dreaming, you know, being more in your head, like more dreaming and less doing. And also can speak to taking things for granted. Okay? In the 4 of Cups energy, it's more about focusing in on one thing, especially like one emotional thing, and kind of ignoring the others. And that can sometimes create a terrible imbalance in your emotional life. Or it could be something like, this might be a relationship, this might be work, this might be family, this might be like me time, you know, so it could also be, you know, focusing more on one aspect of your life. and not balancing up the rest of them. So this card doesn't necessarily warn against that. It's just saying that this is the energy that's going on, okay? And then the Seven of Swords is kind of like the same thing, only it's like piled up a little bit more. You've got this cat, they're asleep, they're like, whatever, I've got all my swords, I know I'm totally protected, but there's these mice everywhere, and it's all like, oh, look at all the little fires that this cat's gonna have to put out when they wake up, right? Just like these are the little fires that are going on in the background while this cat's focusing on this, right? So I think these two cards together do show that there does need to be a balance reached. There does, you know, all the little small mundane things that happen in life does need some attention within this relationship. And then when the Devil card comes up, generally, it's not too negative, right? It can also mean a Capricorn, just so you know, just throwing that out there. But the Devil card can also mean that that this is more of a relationship that is more interesting because it's tempting, or it's interesting because it's forbidden, or it, you know, maybe there isn't necessarily a true love energy there, but there's more of a passion there, something like that, or like almost a frenzy. However, it can also just mean that you guys are really, really into each other, and you're creating a situation that's kind of codependent, where you're really, really like chained to each other, right? The whole lesson with the Devil card, at least I believe, is to realize that you're not chained to begin with. And so I think that if this represents a relationship that things are getting kind of like demanding, maybe you don't know where you end and the other person begins, which can feel like really intoxicating at first, but then later on can feel like kind of smothering and even stifling. Realize that these chains are self-created. They're created in your mind, and that you're not really bound to the situation so much as the situation is presenting an opportunity for you, and you can respond to that how you want to, okay? So let's look at these. We've got received, we've got separation, and then we've got return. So what this tells me, and this makes sense, first off, if you've been communicating with this person and they haven't gotten back to you, they have gotten your message, okay? So this is more for like in the now, okay? If you've been talking to them and you haven't gotten that, yeah, they've received that message. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, then you'll receive a message from them very, very soon. And then you've got a separation and then a return. So, okay, I could see a lot of you guys just really focusing on this separation, being like, well, that means it's not going to work out. No, not necessarily. This separation card's just letting me know that you guys are going to take a break from one another before this comes back around and you guys are able to work this out and stay together, okay? Now, I think that for some people, when this comes back around, some of you guys are going to be moving on, and that's okay, okay? Some of you guys are going to be waiting for it, and it'll end up being wonderful. The thing to keep in mind is that this separation is temporary. It's not going to be forever. This isn't a forever thing. However, you know, healing from a situation where there has been a separation can be very difficult for some people. And for some people, if there is a separation of some kind, it just doesn't feel right to come back to that. So that said, let's go ahead and look at some other things here. And there's one more thing I feel led to mention, is that if you guys have already had a separation and you've come back together, let's say there was a period of time where you just didn't talk, or there was a period of time where you were out of touch, or you guys take a break and now you're back together, that kind of thing, then you're in the return phase, okay? And that means that, yeah, they're going to stick around, okay? Okay, well, we've got the soulmate card. That's interesting. So yeah, this is a situation where you are very, very connected to this person, okay? You're very, very connected to this person. Sometimes when we meet people who have such a strong soul level with us, it brings out some of that real negative energy that we have inside of ourselves that we as humans create because we make mistakes. And so that energy, you know, it comes through like shadow work. It comes through like when we basically act insane and crazy, and then we're like, well, where did that come from? Okay. You know, sometimes soulmates, even though they're so beautiful and it's such a wonderful glorified feeling to think, oh, this person's like a soulmate to me. You know, even though there's all of that, it can also bring up some really nasty stuff, okay? Just know that the two of you have that soul connection, and because you have that soul connection, that's why this is so intense. It's so intense because you have that soul connection. Tolerance. This is what you got to do to get this to happen quicker. And I think that tolerance is really linked to forgiveness as well. So let me speak a bit on forgiveness first. When you talk about forgiveness, a lot of people think that that means that you have to like just, you know, expect that, you know, okay, so somebody messed up and everything's going to be fine. And by forgiving somebody, you're basically saying, okay, but they're not going to mess up again. That's not what forgiveness is about. At least my understanding of forgiveness. It might be for you guys, and maybe that's what you guys want to go with. But my understanding of forgiveness is that we make mistakes. And why do we make mistakes? Because we're human, okay? We're not these perfect souls. We want to be these perfect souls. That's why we have these ideas of who we should be. And we aim to be these perfect beings, but we can't. We always fall short of that. It's because we're human. We're not in that state of consciousness where we can truly be perfect the way that our ideas are perfect, or our create, like when we're wanting to create something and we pull it down from our minds, it has to go through that kind of falling from grace to get it into the physical world, you know. So forgiveness is recognizing not only is this other person in my life who I'm forgiving, they're human, so they're gonna make mistakes. It's just the way things are. This person's gonna make mistakes, and I've got to recognize that. But it's also an awareness that you make mistakes, okay? Because when you know all the mistakes you've made, and you're like, you know what? But that's okay because I'm learning from them, and I want to be better, and I'm going to be better. But you know what? I'm human, and I'm making these mistakes sometimes, but I want to be better. It's the true art of forgiveness for me is being able to recognize your own humanity, and then through that recognition, recognizing that humanity in another person. Tolerance is very, very similar, I mean. You appreciate other points of view because you sense the love in everyone. Tolerance is about knowing. You come to your own conclusions, your own values, your own worth, your own ideas through some kind of process that makes sense to you. You can tolerate other people, even if you might not agree with them, because you know that they've gone through a similar process. Maybe that process doesn't make sense to you, but it makes complete sense to that other person. And by talking about that, talking about those differences or that process, you can come to an understanding that both you and the other person have your own ways of doing things, but that doesn't make one of you right and one of you wrong and all of that. I understand that, yes, there's facts and then there's, you know, opinions, and that a lot of people get the two mixed up, you know, and so something that's, well, this is factual, this is true, and what you're saying isn't true, therefore you're wrong. You know, I get that, okay? But understand that not everybody can see the truth as clearly as you do, you know, on some levels. And just like some people can see things on some levels that you're just are totally blind to. Tolerance is about understanding that we're fallible, okay? Our processes are going to have some fallibility. Now let me get back to the reading though, because it seems like I veered away. By practicing tolerance, you can learn to tolerate the differences between yourself and your person as well, okay? It makes you more attractive to anybody, whether it's the person that you have in your heart or it's just any other person, to practice kindness and tolerance and forgiveness and all of these wonderful things that we can give as humans, okay? That's what draws people to you. It'll draw your soulmate to you. It'll draw this person to you, okay? So really keep that in mind, all right? So, I mean, this is kind of a bittersweet read, okay? Yes, you guys have a soul connection. Very strong soul connection. And yeah, really focused on it. And maybe some things aren't getting done. But ultimately, there will be a return. It's whether or not you want to stick around and say yes to that or not. Right, guys? So I really do wish you guys luck in that one. I mean, it really could be a great thing if you do stick around, okay? I want to go ahead and thank you guys for watching this video to the very end. I really appreciate it. I work really hard to make sure that I am giving you very clear readings and that I am able to make a difference and an impact in the lives of my viewers. And that's why it's so important for me to let you guys know that when you leave comments, when you like my videos, and when I see people subscribing, you know, it really lifts my spirits. It makes me realize just how valuable my gift is to share with you guys. And I just wanted to say thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to see how much value I'm able to bring to the world by creating these videos. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.